everyone. Welcome to Conversations with Sekani, a podcast for people in their 20s who are trying to figure out life and not get lost along the way. Today's guest is Anders, an entrepreneur and regenerative system thinker who stepped away from the conventional tech path to build Heartland Retreat, an off-grid learning community co-created with over 500 volunteers. After decades exploring purpose through lived experience, he created My Heart's Purpose, a structured 9-month system designed to help people clarify their why, align them with their true north, and move from drift to direction in a rapidly accelerating world. Antlers blends soil and software, myth and metrics, creativity and construction. Anders, welcome to Conversations with Sekani. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Oh, thank you so much. It's such a pleasure to be here. It's a mouthful. Gosh, I've just been traveling a lot of different places here.
Oh, wow. Okay, traveling. That sounds cool, actually.
Yeah.
All right. From tech to regeneration. So you stepped away from a conventional path, and I would like to know what triggered that shift, actually.
Yeah, sure. So I'm going to pull it back a little bit further. And when I was out of high school, I think around 18, I knew that a traditional job was not going to be the way that I was going to live my life. I knew that it was going to be different. My father was also an entrepreneur, so I looked up to him quite a bit. And now there's so many new psychological things that I've learned through that experience, of how I chose to live my life at that time, looking up at him and doing things that I thought that, in a way, I think there was a part of me that was seeking approval, and I wanted to be, a successful entrepreneur like my father. But we were very different, very, very different people. And so, anyway, I knew that I had to build businesses. And what I also wanted to do was truly help our world become a better world. And I was very inspired from early on by many different philanthropists and how a lot of people were giving money to big causes that were going to make our world a better place. And so back then, I thought that my plan was to become a millionaire by the time I was 25, and then use that funds to invest into great projects and great things that would make the world a better place. But I have this little problem. I'll be honest with you. I am optimistically delusional. Like I think I truly I just believe I can do anything, and I make myself believe it so much. So I end up investing everything I have into my ideas. It
Oh,
doesn't ma- it
that
doesn't
doesn't
matter
sound
what.
like a problem, actually.
You know,
I
it's
don't think
it's
that's a
it's
problem.
it's challenging. And in the very beginning, when I was 18, I was quite naive, like about these things too, and I didn't know everything I know today about business. But if I had a great idea, I would just say like, that's it, that's the idea, and then I put all my time, all my money, everything, into these ideas. And some of them, most of them, I fell flat on my face, But and what I learned early on, or what I didn't learn, was to get out of a business when there are enough markers to tell you that this is not working. I wish I would have saved my ego. I wish I would have just quit many of those things that I was doing early, but I didn't. And that's part of my character. It's part of who I am. And so during college, what I realized was that because I know that I'm going to be an entrepreneur, and I know that I'm going to be building many different businesses, one of the most expensive things, now it's actually not that big of a deal. But in the past, when you had to pay for media, when you had to pay for video production, you had to pay for graphic design, you had to pay for all of these things, that used to be a barrier of entry. into getting into businesses. Because if you had a great idea, you would have to invest a lot of money for somebody to build your website, somebody to make your brand, all of these things. So I realized early on that, hey, look, why don't I major, in a skill like that so that I can take that with me with regard to whatever businesses I build. And then the other part, which was really interesting, I think, is that I didn't want to major in business, even though I knew that I was going into business, because the teachers and the professors currently at college, they were not living the life that I wanted to live. So a very influential mentor of mine told me that make sure you're, spending the time with the people that have the lives that you want to, live, and make sure that you learn from the people that are living the types of life that you want to live in the future, because all of their different efforts to be who they are has led them to where they are. And if they're not where I want to be in the future, then it's likely that they're not going to be able to show me how to get there. So from that perspective, I went a little bit deeper into then questioning, for myself, well, what is it that I want to do in university? And again, I don't know if how relevant university is today compared to what it was before, but for me at that time, it was, something I wanted to finish. And then I chose to major in art, in fine art. And it wasn't from the business perspective. It was because I understood how radically important creativity is to everything that I was going to be creating in my life. So for many years, or for about 2 or 3 years in my last years of university, I was half of the day I was just creating art. I was just creating art, and I was learning about, graphic design and learning about all of those artistic mediums. And then at nighttime, and on the weekends, and many other during the summers, and whenever I was not in school, I spent a lot of money on business seminars from people that were actually running multi-million dollar businesses. And the people that really knew how to write the sales letters perfectly, the people that knew how to communicate, like and also what I found was incredibly important was learning how to grow, and how to be in full acceptance of myself and truly learn to get to know who I was. Because it was during this time that I started learning about life purpose. And I started figuring out that, I want to make sure I'm building businesses that are in alignment with my purpose. And at that time, it was a vague concept, but around 25, or I was about 25 or 26, and I took a weekend seminar, a $3,000 weekend seminar course in how to find your life purpose. And so that was about almost 20 years ago now. And so that was the first time I really went deep into truly imagining and trying to figure out what is my purpose here. And what I came to learn was that purpose changes as you become more and more mature, and you have different life events that happen, and what I also like to point out, and what I've learned over time, and this might not be true for everybody, but purpose isn't something that you necessarily do. Purpose is something that is within you. It's who you are being. And how do you want to be? And how do you want to express yourself in this world? And when when you feel instances of maybe losing total track of time, or when you're just having so much fun creating something, or building something, or doing anything that triggers this experience of losing track of time, or it is just a very natural high, that just happens. It's just energy that you don't know where it comes from. These are all indicators that who you're being, at this time is in alignment with the human that you were put here to do. And so those were some of my initial hits of being on purpose. And then I got so deeply into tech after that. And I managed many different teams, and we were working with artists. We were doing branding and big websites for very famous musicians and famous creatives. And for then we started building our own platform back then. I mean, like this is way before vibe coding was even like thought of. Today building a website or building an application is so different than what it was back then. And back then, so we were building this application very, very similar to Squarespace. Have you ever seen that website building program? It's called like a drag and drop. Everything nowadays is, really easy to use and really easy to create websites with. There's a lot of software out there that you can use. But back then, that wasn't the case. Back then, you had to code everything. So we were at the very early parts of developing this. And then at about in my late 20s, I was into it, you know, for my whole life. For about 6 years, we'd been working on this project, and I've read enough books around about entrepreneurs to know that many of us have the same experience where we just believe so much in a product, and we believe so much that it's the thing that's going to take us to wherever it is that we want to go in this world. And something illogical often happens. If I think back to it now, it's like I was just eating really crappy food, very like the cheapest food I could find. I was, sometimes like sleeping on couches or staying with mom a little bit too long, or doing other things during many different times that ultimately were not in service to me. They weren't really, and so they weren't helping me be, the highest level of myself. And so something happened in around 29 or so where it was I could only explain it as a big total personal revelation. There was just I went to an event, and there was a person there who was incredibly influential. And after this meeting, I knew that I had to quit. I had to quit my business. I had to let it all go. We didn't have real users yet. So we were still in a beta stage of building. So there was no money coming in. There was only 6 years of blood, sweat, tears, and everything to create this product. And I was in business with my best friend. And I had to sit down with him and say, bro, I love you. And I know you love me. And I have so much gratitude for what we've done here together, but this isn't me. This isn't me. I don't know right now what I am. I don't know where I'm going. I don't know what I'm going to do. But here, you can have everything. You can have everything, and I wish you the best of success. And I hope this goes the way that we've been dreaming about it to go. But I gotta go. I gotta go. And that was hard. That was incredibly hard for him. That was hard for a long time with our relationship. But at the end of the day, like he loved me too. He wanted the best for me, and he wanted me to be happy. And then I wanted to go figure out, like I tracked back to that old purpose workshop, and many other thoughts I'd had around that. And I started thinking deeply, and somehow, some way, I found a type of a cave. And what that cave was for me, it was a farming operation. And I had never farmed anything before that. But what I knew is that I needed to get off of my computer. I needed to be off of screens, and I needed to just be in my heart, and I needed to truly reflect on my life and reflect on what I really loved and reflect on what really moved me. And because I have this character that I don't think is ever going to go away. And that is the character I was talking about before, where I know that if I put my hands in something, if I get my mind into it, I'm gone. I'm gone because I'm going to believe so much into what I'm doing. So, with that as a foundational knowledge, I knew that I needed to be slow. I needed to take this time, I needed to take some years to really define my soul's purpose and define what I'm truly here to do. Because at that time I was, like I said, early 30s, and no wife, no kids, and the time was the time was going, and I had the skills and I had everything that I needed to be successful, and I wanted to make sure that whatever this is going to be, it has to be aligned with who I am, and in service. And so there I was. I was up on this mountain, which was really hard to get to, and I was the only guy there. And I saw I was just on this mountain with these plants, and it was a really, really amazing experience because I was able to not be off of my computer, and I just got to think about my life, and I just got to be with these plants. And I had a lot of different revelations when I was up there by myself on the mountain. One of the things which was really powerful, which I reflected back on a previous time of my life when I lived in Costa Rica. And when I lived in Costa Rica, I lived in the jungle. And I'm not sure what your jungles look like, but the jungles in Costa Rica have 97% of the world's wildlife, and everything is just so vibrant and so healthy. And so sometimes I was sitting there in the jungle and just admiring, putting my hands into the soil, and it's just so black and rich and so much life, into the soil. And I, look up, and there's every kind of bug you can imagine on the trees, and they're just having fun, and all the birds, and then all the monkeys, and so many different things. And there's this life force energy that was happening there. And in my future reflections, when I was up on this mountain, I came to realize that everything there is in harmony. Everything there has its needs met. So all of the things that all of those species need are all offered to them within this environment. And I can't go as far as to say that all of these species are on purpose, but I think that they are. I think that they are, and they're playing these parts which help all of the other species, and it creates this beautiful thing that we call nature. And so I reflect on that. And then another thing that I reflected on was an event which you may or may not have ever heard about. But in 2011, around that time, when I was in my early 30s, I went to something called Burning Man for the first time ever. Burning Man is an event in the Nevada desert where there are zero people there that live there during the whole year. And then for 1 week out of the year, 70,000 people come to this place, and everybody builds art pieces, or they build sculptures, or they build stages. And then usually people are either, maybe they're a musician, or maybe they're just somebody that wants to be in such a creative place. And everything there is free. So after you pay for the ticket, when you go into this experience, there's no money. There's no money that exchanges hands. So, so what I came to realize, what in this space, there was something happening which I had never experienced before. And I related it to my experience in the jungle because here, now there's 70,000 humans and they create all the roads have been created. Everything's very organized. Everybody knows exactly where everything is because there's very specific maps everywhere. And everybody there has volunteered to create these artistic environments. And there's free yoga, free, music. There's a lot of people, a lot of different camps are making dinner or lunch or breakfast, and everything's free. Everybody's giving everything out. It seems unreal. It seems, I think it's the only place in the world where something like this happens. And what I really loved the most about it is how magical really everything became. It's like if you think about wanting to maybe see a friend that is somewhere there, somehow magically, you would end up walking to the same place and run right into them. Or if you were hungry and you wanted to have like maybe Indian food, maybe that was you were just dreaming. It's like, I'm really hungry right now and I wish there was some Indian food available. Like magic, you go around a corner and then there is a camp, and there that night it's their Indian food night, and then you would get exactly what you want. And so this happens. It's called pleiadipity. It's actually something that everybody knows happens there. And so I'm very interested in that. And so then what I came to realize as I had been up there farming for 2 years up on that mountain, and I had at that point really figured out, well, what is it that I really want to do? Who is it that I want to be? And that's when it all clicked to me, is that if I am a character in an environment, if I am myself in this environment and I am actually happy, I have all my needs met, I have creativity around me, and I can talk to people about exploring purpose within their own lives and be in and have all of our needs met in a place that's similar to Burning Man, then that is who I want to be. And then the expression, what I consider when you know what your purpose is, then if you create an expression of that, that's like what you do. And so the expression of me supporting my own purpose would then be to develop and build this whole entire environment, which so I partnered with my mother and we purchased a 25-acre land project. And the goal of this place is to build it into a total creative utopia. And so you come in here, and then the food comes from our farm. The all the different structures are all created, so they really invite people to connect and come together and explore creativity and explore their relationships. And then we have things like saunas and cold plunges and many other interactive artistic sculptures that people can go into. And then there's various different messages and various different questions that people can reflect on so that they can explore what their purpose is for themselves. And so I took then this idea from Costa Rica, along with this idea from Burning Man, and then other places that I had been, because I reflected back to how it felt to be me at those different times. And when I am at that frequency, that is when other people are actually most likely to go into that frequency and be, excited for their own life. And when they're in that place, they're going to have the same lights come on, for themselves. And when they, get there themselves, that is like I thrive. I thrive when other people have found that in themselves. And so I thought that it was going to take 2 years to build this place from beginning to finish. Very, very optimistic. And so now 12 years later, it's complete to level one. I think this is going to be a multi-generational project. It's going to be something, it can be something that's going to be as famous as very, very famous archaeological sites today. Because the way that we want to build this isn't in the normal capitalistic way. It's really a communal effort, and it's really inspires people to give their most creative self in offering, offering additions, creative additions to the environment that we've created here. So 12 years later, here we are, and it's amazing. It's called Heartland Retreat, heartlandcollective.org. And what I then, came to realize was that I am living my purpose, here. And everybody that comes here now gets to dive deeper into their own purpose and gets to dive deeper into who they are and what they're here to be and what they're here to do. But I think bigger, I think bigger than that. And I want more people in our world to be living at their own highest frequency, like I want them to feel anchored today because the changes that are happening are extraordinary and things are going very, very fast. And if you don't have your anchor, and your anchor is what I consider your why, the why that drives you. And when you have that for yourself, you feel you're not being moved, you're not being swayed by ideas that might sound interesting, but they're not actually in alignment with what you're here to do. So that was one of the things when I was 18, I had no anchor. I was a yes man. I said yes to everything, and I didn't understand that my time is my most valuable asset. And if I spend it in the wrong direction, then I am drifting. And so I came to look at the concept of drift a lot in my own life, and I realized that so many times when I went off course, it was because I started something that wasn't actually totally aligned with the human that I am and the expression that I want to offer while I have time here on Earth. So, so that then became a huge part. And then I really wanted to offer what I knew to way more people than only the people that could come here to California to our retreat. So I put my tech hat back on. I hadn't been involved in tech since 15 years ago. But I knew I was very involved in tech 15 years ago. But then, of course, I mean, I did emails and of course I did, flyers here and there, but it wasn't at all similar to what I was doing before. And so 2 years ago, I started getting involved with AI and started developing a lot of stories and started creating something called the creation myth, which is a very, very detailed um, way to describe why your business actually exists. And it's a very beautiful way to ensure that you are fully aligned with the business that you are doing, because when you create a creation myth, you get to really think about the grander purpose that your business actually holds and why it exists in the way that it does. And so I created a 64 scene creation myth of the Heartland Collective of why this place is being built. And and so that was my first 6 to 8 month experience, very closely working with AI, really closely understanding what the capabilities were about 2 years ago. And then about 8 months, and then I kept working with it simultaneously while I was still building and finishing various jobs here that we have on the land. And about 6 or 7 months ago, I started building the newest project, which is called My Heart's Purpose, myheartspurpose.com. And so this is exactly what I wish existed when I was 18 years old, because I mean, technology wasn't there. If I was going to build what I built now, 15 years ago, it would have been a $300,000 app. It's wild and crazy and beautiful what's now possible compared to how much work things like this took in the past. And so I developed a very, very exciting 9 method journey. So people can go through. First, method one is finding your why, and then you explore your life in various different aspects of your life. You explore various different jobs that you've had, and then it also has AI tied into it. So the AI gives you reflections on all the different questions that you answer. And when you finish method one, you create a why statement. And this is a very, very powerful why statement that keeps you anchored. And then as you go through method two through nine, you move all the way to the end. And then at the end, you're going to be creating your purpose statement. And it goes through things like your astrology, something called human design, and something called the Ikigai, which is 1,000-year-old purpose matching system. All of these systems have never, or I don't know at least, if they've ever been used primarily for life purpose creation. So I took all of these different systems and then integrated them and offering the user the opportunity to learn a little bit about all of these systems. And then the AI helps to take all of your answers that you've answered throughout the whole entire course. And then at the end, it creates this purpose statement. And so your purpose statement is the true north. And it's the feedback has been really, really cool. It's really a beautiful way for another version, another expression of my purpose has been this, the technological aspect. And before, because I had so much experience in technology before, it wasn't fully aligned though with my purpose and how I was using it. And so a little tip, that I think that I've also learned through this experience is that none of the businesses that I quote unquote failed in before were ever actually a waste of time.
Mm.
Like there are a lot of skills. There are so many skills that I picked up in every single business that I started. And when I look at my business right now, I can see that I had like sales jobs where I sold ridiculous things, but the practice of sales helps me a tremendous amount right now. I built a game business where we developed a board game, and that helped me. Now I look and that now I realize that that actually helped me gamifying my life and gamifying like marketing funnels and really creating more fun and enjoyment into all the things that I do now. And then I have various real estate businesses before, and all of the construction that I did in those businesses, that one was a very successful one. But still, it wasn't me living my purpose. But now I look back and realize that all of these skills that I'm learning while in this job is actually going to be supportive for the thing that I will be creating in the future. At that time, I didn't realize. At that time, I didn't know. When all of my businesses ended, there was sadness, and sadness is okay. But I didn't understand at that point that all of those endings of those different businesses were going to be in huge support to my life in the future. So if any of you are out there right now and you're considering ending your business, it's a hard thing to do. It's a very, very important thing to do. And just have gratitude for the effort and for the time and everything that you did, and just trust deeply that whatever you're doing, it is going to be in service to who you are becoming. And and so here we are, here we are now, and as people go through this whole process, they can either get support from different coaches, or they can get further support from me, or they can now have at least a full manuscript. At the end, you get a full manuscript of talks about everything that you have been answering and all the different questions and all the different AI reflections. And so when you have something like that to look back into, that is what's going to totally annihilate drift. Because when you're clear on your life and you're clear on what it is that you're here to do, making decisions becomes so much easier. And it's just becomes more enjoyable. And so that's essentially the My Heart's Purpose program. And in general, the reason for all of this is that I think that our world really needs us humans to truly understand what we want to do as humans. And it's not until we invest the time that it takes into answering questions about ourselves and being truly honest with ourselves, with how do I want to show up? And what do I say yes to? What do I say no to? What are the values that I want to drive my life with? And, what are the different expressions that would be aligned with how I want to live my life? And so doing programs like this is how I got to where I am. But now I mean, this program, and there's probably others out there that offer amazing shortcuts to teaching us how to live a life on purpose. And I guess one last thing to share about that is I do think that I've mentioned it a few times, but getting anchored and truly finding your why is the most important thing, so that it'll help you stay calm, stay steady, and make sure that you're starting to make the right decisions based on your why. And so method one is completely free. It's something that I'm gifting to anybody that wants to try this out. So all of your listeners, it's our gift together to offer that. And I say our gift because if it wasn't for you, people wouldn't know about
Mm.
this. And it's just such a beautiful thing knowing that we get to gift something that has the potential to hold people to themselves so that people can be anchored in who they are. And it's such a beautiful thing, to be sharing that possibility with other people, because as we go forward in life, it's my dream and probably your dream too, that we can be around people that are anchored, that people that know what they're here to do, so that we can be in that conversation together. It's a beautiful conversation to have and beautiful life to explore.
Okay. Wow. Actually, I am also interested in method one. That's crazy. I'm interested actually. And thank you so much. This has been really, really insightful. And for me, I think that your journey is a very, inspiring one. And the funny thing is everything you've done so far all aligned in your favor. I don't know if that makes sense to you, right? But like everything you've been doing from the beginning, you're now using them now to your own purpose, right? And then, yeah,
Yeah.
you created my heart's purpose. So, yeah, I think it's a beautiful story of your, life and all. And yes, I hope my listeners can learn from this also. And finally, I have this session. It's called the rapid fire segment in my podcast, right? So yeah, I'll call out some words and then you pick which one you'd prefer, right? So starting now, would you prefer drift or direction?
Direction.
Okay. Would you prefer soil or software? This one is a bit tricky, actually.
So yeah. What's I'm gonna tell it like what's rapid fire. So I'll go with soil,
Okay, all right. So yeah, myth or metrics?
meat,
Okay, and then control or collaboration?
collaboration,
Right, and finally, success or alignment?
alignment.
All right. So yeah, thank you so much, Anders. And for people who are listening to you right now, where can they, get to know more about you and what you do?
I'm gonna share that, but really quickly, I want to talk about soil and
Well,
software
software.
uh, because it's a very, very interesting. And I paused for a long time because when you said soil and software, I saw the same thing.
Oh, wow.
And so what I mean by that is when you really, really understand how healthy soil works, it's a network.
Mm.
And within this network, there's mycelium. And so the mushrooms and the mycelium, it's all happening underground and it's creating all of these different connections. And I was just, it's, I've thought about it I've thought about this similarly before, but it just never became so clear. So soil equals software. Software is humans trying to duplicate what soil already does in a healthy way. And then
Okay.
both get viruses. Both get viruses. So
Mm.
anyway, just an interesting side quest. So my name once again is Anders Gustavsson, and the best place to find me is either on Facebook at Anders Life, or I invite all of you to give My Heart's Purpose a go. Method one is free, so it's myheartspurpose.com.
Okay, wow. I personally, I would actually be checking out my heart's purpose, definitely. All right. So thank you so much for this episode. It has been really, really inspiring. And to my listeners, thanks for tuning into Conversations with Sekani. If this episode sparked something in you, make sure to share to someone who you think might need this. And also subscribe so you don't miss out on new episode. Thank you, Anders. Do have a wonderful day.
Thank you for having me. It's been great.
All right. Bye.